Okay, testing. Something's going on tonight, guys. I'm on actual live. Can you hear me now, guys? Can you hear me now? Can you hear sound now? Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know what's going on tonight, guys. Thank you, Bianca. You guys want to go back to the beginning? I want to go back to the beginning. In the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, a gruesome home invasion unfolded in Moscow, Idaho, where four University of Idaho students lost their lives. The victims were Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xander Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin. Two of the other roommates survived the horrifying incident, which I don't believe half the stuff that comes out of Dylan's mouth. And I think that's why she's got thrown under the bus so many times in that PCA. I honestly believe that. And I honestly think the night that DM saw all these horrifying incidents, she was tripping off of either mushrooms or acid and having a bad trip. That's what I think. Here are the key details about the case. The crime scene, which is now gone, thanks to University of Idaho. The surviving roommates wake up around 4 a.m. Mind you, she opens her door 3 times that night. The first time, she opens her door to yell out, shut the F up," because she was trying to sleep. The second time she opens the door, she hears what sounds of crying coming from Kernodle's room. And just because there was TikTok activity, guys, does not mean proof of life. And on the second time she opened the door, she heard what sounds like there's someone here. And see, she thought it was Kaylee upstairs because she thought she heard Kaylee playing with her dog. Now, I don't understand that when her bedroom is like right below Maddie's room. So how can you hear Kaylee in her bedroom playing with her dog? That's what I don't understand. And she says that it was Kaylee saying there's someone here. Honestly, I don't believe it was Kaylee. I think it was Xana saying there was someone here because supposedly Xana was awakened on her TikTok at 4:12 a.m. And that doesn't mean proof of life. It really doesn't. The roommate heard, mind you, this is the second time she opened her door. The roommate heard the sounds of crying coming from Xana's room. Good. When the roommate opened her door For a third time, she saw, quote unquote, a man clad in black with a black mask. What 21-year-old or what adult says clad in black? Now, it would be more believable if she would say, I saw a suspicious person and they were either wearing black or dressed in black and they had a black mask on and they were headed towards the back door. I would believe that. Yeah, that would come off more believable other than I saw a man clad in black with a black mask. And she went on to say in that statement that the intruder was described as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Now, here's the thing I don't get. If it's dark in that house, how can you see somebody with bushy eyebrows or somebody clad in black? Wouldn't they blend in with the darkness in the house? I think they would. There's your link, Sophie. And on December 30th, 2022, Bryan Christopher Kohberger was arrested in Pennsylvania. And personally, I don't think his parents deserved the fact that there was a no-knock warrant issued and they destroyed their house. And he was charged with the 4 stabbings. Hey, Sophie.
Hey.
In connection with the stabbing deaths of the 4 Idaho college students who were found dead on November 13th. The motive behind this tragic crime remains a subject of investigation and speculation. As of now, the specifics reasons that led to the violent home invasion and the loss of 4 young lives have not been definitively established. Any underlying factors, but the exact motivations remain shrouded in darkness. This entire case is shrouded in darkness, is it not, Sophie?
Oh yeah. It's clad in black. The whole case is clad in black.
Now, do you agree with me? It would have been a lot more believable if she would have said, "Okay, I saw a suspicious person, and they were either dressed in black or they were wearing all black and a mask, not clad in black."
Right. I mean, or just like I saw a figure and it was like so tall. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if you could get a build and a figure over trying to say you saw somebody's bushy eyebrows.
Yep.
Which just doesn't sound it just doesn't sound realistic. It sounds weird.
No, and I actually have a video I want to play. I believe that night that Dylan saw all this shit, she was tripping off of shrooms or acid.
Well, that could be why she would use the term clad in black, and also why she thought she saw bushy eyebrows. Maybe she was in her looking in the mirror. Just kidding. I don't know what I don't remember her eyebrows.
Here we go. Okay, so hold on, let me find it. You can go on talk while I look for it.
Oh,
See, there it
okay.
is.
I haven't even had a chance to look much YouTube today.
Channel, but all people do is tell you to go to freaking Fiverr. And
so recently there has been a lot, and I mean a lot, of speculation
I thought this was a
online
different guy.
concerning one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen. In this video, in my own words, I'm going to share with you a message that I received back on December the 3rd, which could shed some light onto what took place during the evening/morning of the murders. Firstly, I'm going to read to you a very short newspaper article to get everyone up to speed on exactly what I'm talking about here. And then afterwards, I'm going to share my own thoughts on what possibly could have taken place. Why did surviving roommate who came face to face with killer wait 6 hours before calling 911? And why did he choose them as his victims? The questions left unanswered by a dramatic Idaho affidavit. Police have unsealed the arrest affidavit, revealing why they have pointed the finger at Bryan Kohberger more than a month after 4 students were slain in their beds. The explosive document shows how painstaking work by Moscow police and the FBI tracked down the 28-year-old criminal justice graduate. He was denied bail today during a brief court appearance in Moscow, shortly after the affidavit outlining some of the case against him was shared online. The papers included details on how Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath close to the bodies of Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves. However, the long-awaited revelations have brought a series of questions about the brutal slayings on November the 13th. Why did Dylan wait 6 hours before calling 911 despite coming face-to-face with the killer? Surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen is under pressure to reveal why she failed to call the authorities earlier, despite coming face-to-face with a, quote, bushy-eyebrowed killer. The probable cause affidavit revealed that Mortensen, who lived through the attack with Bethany Funk, heard several scuffles throughout the night and opened her door. Mortensen told police that she saw a suspect dressed in all black with a mask covering his face and heard one of her housemates say, "There's someone here." She also heard the suspect say, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," as he wandered the house committing the atrocity. Police confirmed that a 911 call was made by one of the surviving roommates at 11:58 a.m. who requested help for an unconscious person, though it has not been confirmed who spoke to police. It has raised
Unconscious person.
Right?
If you're
What about him saying she heard the guy say it as he walked around the house or whatever? Like that was kind of messing with what we actually know. It's just kind of like sliding the truth around.
yeah, I mean,
But I mean, generally, you know exactly what you're pointing out, which is, yeah, it's ridiculous.
why would you call the cops and say there's an unconscious person in the house when you can clearly tell that they're dead?
Right? Right. Correct. I was always wondering if one of these roommates passed out, but then who would have found them? And then didn't they call Hunter first? And isn't that
Yeah,
like
yeah,
ridiculous in the first place?
yeah. Hunter was the first one called, and then the spokesman for the Pi Beta Fives was called. But yet on the 911 call, they didn't say which roommate phone was used, but it was being passed around in a circle by a bunch of people.
Right?
And was Jasmine Kernodle received a call at 8:30 in the morning stating that her sister was dead. So she went to the house, and it was surrounded by a bunch of college students standing out in front. And they were all on their cell phones texting, and I think that's where all those Snapchats came from. Was all those students were standing out in front of the house texting everybody. Hey, there's something that happened here.
What about that picture of the people like in the backyard at night, whatever? Maybe they
Yeah,
just wandered around to the front of the house and decided to call 911 finally.
yeah, and then you have Jasmine who called. Jasmine was the older sister of Xana, and Xana's dad had come up for Parents' Weekend to see Jasmine. So Jasmine turns around and calls her dad, who was halfway to Arizona. He turns around. He's like 5 hours from Moscow. That's how far he had gotten. He turns around and he goes back to the house. where where Jasmine was standing at. And I'd like to know exactly why it took him 8 hours to call 911. I know about the fraternity and the sorority, but still,
None of that matters. None of that matters. Nothing makes any sense until somebody like actually calls the police. Like no phone call makes sense. No pre-phone call. No, I have to call my head sister or whatever it is, or you know what I mean? Like I have to call my roommate's best friend. I need to
yeah,
call no, you don't need to send text messages. All she needed to do was pick up her phone and call the police. All she had to
yeah,
do was call 911. That was all she needed. If somebody passed out or not, she needs to be like, somebody broke into our house. I don't know what's going on. It sounds like people are hurt, and I'm locked in my room or some shit.
yeah. Now, if she would have got on the phone, after she heard all this and called 911, there could have been one of those victims' lives saved that night, or possibly all of them. We don't know. We don't know if that one call to 911 could have saved one of their lives that night. Instead of locking herself in her room and then texting all the roommates to see if anybody answered, and the only one that answered was Bethany. That would have sent a red flag up in there. Hey, something's going on here. None of the other roommates are responding back except for Bethany. Maybe I need to call 911 to find out exactly what's going on here.
Right?
Questions of why Mortensen didn't contact authorities sooner, with some arguing that she may have been frozen by fear. The roommate did
Bullshit.
not contact authorities for 6 hours, despite hearing several of her roommates in distress, as well as witnessing the killer. Mortensen told cops she was awoken at around 4 a.m. by what sounded like victim Kaylee Gonsalves, 21, playing with her dog in a third-floor bedroom. She said she looked out of her room but didn't see anything, looking again on a second occasion when she thought Zaina Knodel was crying. Mortensen stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. After the man moved towards her, she said that she remained in a frozen shock phase as he continued past her, but let her survive. It is not clear why both Funk and Mortensen were allowed to live, with the latter coming face to face with her housemate.
Her housemate's killer.
It's killer. One of the questions that has not been answered is why Kohberger allegedly targeted the 4 students and left their 2 roommates to live. Kohberger was tracked to the area of the home in the months leading up to the deaths by his phone, but officials have yet to confirm how he became aware of the students in the first place. The affidavit states that police made efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims before the killings. It added that they looked into if he, quote, conducted surveillance on the King Road residence and was in contact with any of the victims' associates before or after the alleged offence. Okay, so clearly there's a little bit of added bluff and bluster in that particular newspaper article, but I'm sure you get the picture here of what the question is on everyone's lips at this present time. Why did it take Dylan Mortensen 6 hours to contact authorities? What I want to do before I get into this rumour or this message that I received very early on in December is I just want to clarify exactly what took place according to the affidavit here. This very short part of the affidavit, it's important that we get it clear as to what is stated from law enforcement. And it states the following here. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the 2nd floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonsalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which was located on the...
Now, how could she hear Gonzalez playing with her dog in a 3rd floor bedroom when her bedroom wasn't directly below Kaylee's room? It was below Maddie's room. And they found Murphy in Kaylee's room unharmed. What do you think, Sophie? That's just weird. That's weird as F to me.
Out of here? Oh, I'm out of there.
Huh?
Hold on. I don't know what happened.
Yes, Adam, lies after lies.
The third floor. A short time later, DM said she heard what she thought was Gonsalves saying something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Canodal's phone showed this could have also have been Canodal, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. DM stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house.
Dang
DM
it.
stated she opened her door
Is
a
that
second
better?
time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Canodal's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog could also be heard
What
barking
happened?
numerous times,
I
starting
have
at
no
4:17
idea.
a.m.
I have no idea. Did
Security
it just
camera
like
is less than
doubled
50
up my
feet from the
screen
west
of
wall
me
of
on your
Canodal's
show
bedroom.
for some reason? That was weird.
DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10"
Jesus
or
Christ.
taller, male, not
I
very
would be
muscular,
like
but athletic built
slamming
with
that door
bushy
and moving
eyebrows.
furniture in front of it. You know? What do you mean there's moving
Yeah.
towards her?
And
I'm like,
she was
there's a
frozen.
guy in my house.
She was
You know,
frozen with fear.
I could imagine being her age and this happening to me, and I would have to leave my room and go find a phone. I'd have to go get the house phone so that I could call, so I could call 911. Not like it's the 21st century, and I have my phone in my room right next to me, like the the your lifeline, that thing that you pay for every month so that you can reach people. I can't fathom anything. I know we talked about it. I just can't. There's no reason. No reason.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's inconceivable, I guess, is the only thing I can think of. Like, or the whole thing is just BS. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
what they put out was BS, and she's home with her knife or whatever. The photos Adam
The male
puts on
walked
here.
past DM as she stood in a frozen shock
Frightening.
phase. The male walked
Yeah.
towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not
Yeah.
state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Okay, now I received a very intriguing message back on December the 3rd. This is
And see, what I would like to know is they found those 3 unknown male DNAs, but there was a party there 48 hours before the murders. So what happened to that 150 DNAs that was in there? Because there was 150 people in that house.
Right,
You
right.
know,
And we looked at like the stack of cups that were there.
yeah. And the
Like every
cops
single cup
never,
probably had more than one person's handprint on it, you know?
yeah, and the cops never took the cups for evidence. Yeah,
Seems
they didn't
that's
even look
so
for. Yeah,
insane.
yeah, I know that's weird. They didn't take the cups for evidence. They let the cups in there, so the cups got destroyed with the house.
That is insane. I thought that was crazy too. Like, did that cleaning crew ever actually go through there?
Yeah,
You know,
yes, they had a restoration. Now, here's what I don't understand. If you're going to tear the house down, why would you bring a restoration crew through in there?
right? Yeah, exactly. But like, that's what. Yeah, that's zero sense. There's no sense made. I mean, what are you talking about, basically? I still can't get over, when they were like taking the stuff out of the house in the moving van and not really like
Yeah.
bagging and tagging things as it were. Like I would feel like there would be like that much evidence, you know, in that house from that time, from that 11 or 12-minute time period. You think there would be enough evidence in that house to fill that back of that thing? And that was like stuff they were like, what, somehow moving to the girl's family's thing? I just don't understand.
No, they were moving the stuff that was in the U-Haul truck to a storage locker.
Oh.
And all the boxes were numbered. Bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3.
Oh. So was that an evidence locker or a storage locker? Is it a
It was a storage locker because when they got a hold of the family, when they got a hold of the Canolos and the Chapins and the Mogans and the Gonzalezes, basically, and they would tell the families, okay, your child stuff is in, say, like Xander's room. Your daughter's stuff is in box number 1.
Oh yes,
And
that's fair.
what they
Okay.
told the Gonzalezes, Kaylee's stuff is in the box marked bedroom number 2, and which Christy kind of got a little upset because she felt like her daughter's life was just a room number. Yeah, and she even said that in one of the interviews.
Yeah.
It really,
That's
she said, it really hurts me to know that my daughter is known as bedroom number 2.
Yeah. I think that you're probably so I don't know, so traumatized at that point. From anything anybody says it's probably a trigger of some kind, That was some nice way of putting that by any means. But I feel
From a
like
personal friend of mine, I'm not going to
there's
share
probably nothing
the
you could say.
exact message for confidentiality reasons. But there are things in that message which lead me to believe that there could be something in this. The reason I say that is because it mentions here, and bearing in mind we're talking about December the 3rd here, a long, long time ago, it mentioned that the person that was seen in the house was wearing a mask. So there could be something in this.
Hey,
Now,
Rachel.
I know this is going to be assumption. This is going to be absolutely pure speculation here. But what we have online at the current time is a lot of individuals attacking this girl, saying that she was in on this, she knew this was going to happen. Why didn't she call the police earlier? Very, very nasty, insulting behavior from a lot of people towards Dylan Mortensen. Now, what I'm going to say next, as I say, it is pure speculation. But to me, it does make a lot of sense here. So I was told, as I say, back on December the 3rd, there was a very early rumor that came out that Dylan Mortensen may have been under the influence of drugs. And I mean LSD, magic mushrooms, that sort of stuff, hallucinogenics. She may have opened her door, may have seen this individual and thought she was having a bad trip. Now, as crazy as this sounds, think about this for one moment. If this person had taken some kind of drugs, and I'm not here to judge anybody, that's certainly not the point of this. It's hopefully to try and remove some of this suspicion from this poor girl. If she did, in fact, take some kind of drug, some sort of hallucinogenic, LSD, magic mushrooms, whatever, and she believed she was having a bad trip, that to me does make a lot of sense because she's heard crying. She's heard something. She's gone to her bedroom door. She's opened that door. There's nothing there. Okay, right. Okay. Go and sit back down. Then here's another noise. Goes back to the door. Opens again. Nothing there. Okay. Am I imagining things here? What's going on? The third occasion, she sees a masked man walking towards her who just walks past her. Is this the key here? Does that explain why she has simply gone inside her room, locked the door, and then eventually gone back to sleep? Because what I have heard is that she laid down after seeing this individual,
What happened?
That's the first time I've heard that about Dylan. She could possibly thought she was having a bad trip.
Well, isn't that a better explanation? And maybe, to be honest with you, the only explanation that I would actually say is like something that would make you probably not call the cops for 8 hours.
Yeah, and maybe that's why she was thrown under the bus so much in the PCA.
Right. And she is word clad in black.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Micah can agree with me on this. It would be more sensible and sound better if you would just say, "Hey, I saw a suspicious person either dressed in black or wearing black." That would come off as more believable instead of, "I saw a man clad in black with a black mask." Those two other references would be more believable than just clad
I'd
in
say
black.
clad in black. I'd say her weird things would and bushy eyebrows and whatnot would make more sense if she literally was tripping on mushrooms. Things would stick out to her differently, and she would. I mean, come on, that's really that to me is like. uh I mean,
We got
let's do
we
it.
got
I
we
mean,
got
I'd
a
be
visitor.
honest.
We
That
got a visitor in
what
chat, guys. We got WSU mom Kim. Hey Kim, how you doing? She says, "Are we still condemning these kids, all of them, for partying or trying? It's college. That's what they do. This is bigger than a one-off."
I'm not
The,
condemning the kids.
the
We're not condemning the kids. We're discussing, but
no,
I think that I think that that is a legitimate excuse, for some her age. Like, I mean, I don't. Are mushrooms illegal? I don't really know. I don't think they are. So, like, I think that I get it.
yeah, she
I
said
think that
she said the only question is why 8 hours and friends, not LE. Yeah, Kim, I totally agree with you.
yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. Yeah, friends, there is no excuse. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I can't come up with any reason to call a friend or anybody else.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, thank you, Kim.
We're not trying to insult any of those children. Like,
And
what a
no,
huge tragedy. I have a hard time believing any of the people accused are the killer because they're also young. To be honest, anybody, any possible person, and that anybody's theory has in it is a child to me. So it's actually just sad. It's
hey
just sad.
Kim, this link is for you, Kim.
Are you coming on panel with us?
Yeah, yeah.
Another Idahoan.
Micah's telling her to go. Michael says go on panel, Kim. Yeah, that link is for you, Kim. This is a safe chat. This is a very professional chat.
You didn't sound harsh. And you know what's funny? Yeah, they are illegal. I thought they grow in the ground. I'm a mushroom hunter, but not that kind.
Yeah, that link is for you, Kim. Come on up. We want to hear from you. This is a very safe chat here.
Well, yeah, Rachel, for sure. That's funny. Everything is illegal here. I was joking earlier that, like, I heard something. I was just listening earlier to another channel, and somebody said something about Idaho and pot. And I was like, yeah, no. I think we'll probably be the last state to legalize pot out of stupidity and hate of money. The state hates all the awesome income that the legal states around us are making for their schools and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, Kim, why do you? Oh, that's totally okay, Kim. Why do you think, Kim, that there was an 8-hour delay in calling 911?
I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad you're there.
Yeah, Kim. Why do you feel? Why do you think that there was an 8-hour delay? I've heard that the sororities were called first and their friends were called first. That is kind of weird, Kim.
She didn't hear any further noises,
Mhm.
and then that was it. She didn't hear anything else after seeing this individual all dressed in black. She went to sleep. She assumed she was having a bad trip. Now, when you piece all of that together, to me, as I say, it does make a lot of sense. Hearing a noise, going to the door, there's nothing there, right? Okay, go and lay back down. You think you're hearing crying, you go to the door, you open the door, there's nothing there, right? Surely at that point in time, if she was experiencing some kind of bad trip or something drug related, you may simply think, actually, am I imagining things here? Because a lot of people are saying, how can you hear these sounds? How can you actually see a physical being walk past you wearing a bloody mask and not call the police? How can you not call the police until hours later? Not 6 o'clock in the morning, not 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, but a lot later than that. What is the explanation here? To me, that makes so much sense. The fact that she didn't hear anything after seeing this individual, she's gone back to sleep, she's woken up at a normal time, maybe because she is a bit hungover, a bit whatever, a bit groggy, and then the rest of the events have slowly unfolded. Now, although the probable cause affidavit is solely focused pretty much on Bryan Kohberger, that could also explain why that doesn't make it into that particular document. They're hardly going to say Dylan Mortensen was under the influence of drugs and saw this individual. They're not going to put that in that document, are they? And would they? Do they need to? I mean, really, they're just focusing on the evidence against Bryan Kohberger. But it does seem to cut off in a rather strange way, which has led to all of these questions, all of this speculation online. And admittedly, what I have just said there is speculation. But to me, it makes a lot more sense rather than someone who is, plotting something or is, had some sort of prior knowledge. To me, someone who is experiencing a bad trip and actually thinks they're seeing things does make a lot more sense to me than someone who was actually in on this. We need to remember that police, exonerated these girls, that they were nothing to do with this. Bethany and Dylan were nothing to do with.
That's right. You're e-signing.
I don't know what to do with this feeling.
Yeah, you do.
With this crime, according to law enforcement. So then how do you explain the events which transpired? For me personally, when looking at this, if this individual, as in Dylan Mortensen, was in some kind of state of shock, some kind of state of terror, you still would have thought that she would have come out of her bedroom a little bit earlier than midday. What I received in that message, to me, as I said, makes a lot of sense. The fact that she saw this individual, she went back into her bedroom, locked the door, probably laid down thinking, did I just see that? She's listening out. There's no more noise. Eventually, she calms herself down enough to go back to sleep. And then
Kim,
when she
can you come up
arises
for
the next
like
day,
5 minutes?
that's when a discovery is made. Because if this was someone who was in fear for their life, who was genuinely, what's the word? Genuinely convinced that she had seen this individual, that something terrible had happened, you would have thought that she would have come out of that bedroom a little bit sooner than midday, that she would have immediately have gone to see what had
There's
taken
Rock
place.
Chalk.
You know, did I hear that crying last night? What was that noise?
Come up
You know,
here,
what was
Rock
that loud?
Chalk.
What was that bang? What was those? What, you know, someone's
Yeah,
here.
Rock Chuck, my premiere was
When you
blocked,
put that
so
in the mind of someone who may be under the
I'm actually live.
Mhm.
you could see it as, actually,
So
am I
if you want to
just
come on
imagining
up, Rock
things here?
Chuck.
The voices, someone's here, the crying, you know, the man wearing a mask, just walking past her, not acknowledging her, possibly. To me, it makes a lot of sense. Now, as many people know, I'm not really a channel that puts out
There's the link, Rock Chuck.
massive, monumental conspiracies of, you know, well, it was the butcher that did it, and this poor individual in Idaho who drives this truck, and where's this truck going, and who does this truck belong to? That's not me. That's not really my style when it comes to the videos that I create. But the fact that in that message, which that individual received at the end of November, I received on the 3rd of December, the fact that
Hey,
in that
Canadian
message
cat lady.
mentioned the perpetrator was wearing a mask, to me, there could be some validity here to this particular message.
Yeah, I believe there is validity to that particular message. What do you think? And what does my chat think? Was she
Yeah.
tripping off of shrooms, or was she tripping off of acid? Did she
I
think
want
she was?
that to be the case. I just want it to be the case now. If that's a possibility, I'm going with it because that sounds reasonable to me now. That sounds like a reasonable thing to do now. To be 100% honest, it sounds totally reasonable that she was just tripping on mushrooms. I mean, like, imagine hearing all those noises and having like hallucinations and all those things. Then I could see her being in some shock state where she's having like a bad trip or something. I don't know. I mean, it's that to me is a viable explanation. If she wants to go with that, I'll take it.
This is the
behavior.
video that Rock's been wanting to hear.
She's talking about fraternities and sororities just being a second family. It was about 10:45 or 11 on November 13th that Martha drove a few blocks over to Sigma Chi because there was this project she was working on. She was waiting for Hunter to show up. Hunter is one of the triplets. Ethan Chapin is the oldest, which I didn't realize. Hunter, his brother, was late. They called the trio the
Someone please
instantly
drop
recognizable
Hunter's link in the
triplets.
chat.
Martha got to know all of them pretty well.
Plunder.
All of the
Do we have
triplets
to
went
drop
to U
that
of
in
I.
here?
There was no
Somewhere?
sign of Hunter, though, when it got close to around 1 p.m. Across town, Katerina Hakima was waking up. She's another U of I student. She saw this text message which went out, the notification from the Moscow Police Department. It took a minute to register. A lot of people are going to talk about their shock upon hearing, but this vandal alert that went out said Moscow PD are investigating a homicide on King Road, shelter in place. So that's the one thing, again, I took issue with. They told them to stay away from the area, which is a good thing for students, but I don't know why they didn't say a quadruple homicide. But Martha called Hunter and said, "Are you coming?" And Hunter says, "No, I think Ethan's dead." So she didn't believe it right away. And then she just texted Zaina, Hunter's girlfriend, "I love you." She did not know what Zaina was going through. She said, "I imagined that whatever was going on was overwhelming." So she walked out into the courtyard, and that's when someone told her they thought Zaina was dead as well. So since the 1122 King Road house was really close, she walked right over. Martha said a lot of people were in shock. They didn't know. Is it a carbon dioxide thing? Sometimes that's what you hear. You hear poisoning from carbon dioxide when you hear about 4 people in one house all losing their lives together. This was the beginning of the stuff, Martha called it. It was strange. It was just a group of college students standing around silent. It was unthinkable that anything would happen on King Road. Now, up in Rathdrum, Idaho, about 95 miles north, that's when the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, Steve and Christy, got the news. It was their niece who called Christy, but Christy is saying, "What do you mean?" Christy heard from her niece, "I think Kaylee's dead." And she's saying, "What do you mean?" "I think Kaylee's been killed." She got the voicemail and there were little drips and drabs of info was coming out. about. But Christy said, look, Maddie Mogan, Kaylee's longtime best friend, Maddie would have called me if something had happened to Kaylee. So she's calling Maddie, ring, 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 no answer as well. So this says Kaylee had recently moved to 1122 King, and Christy is saying before long there was a knock on their door. It was the sheriff, and that's when Christy just ran to her room. She couldn't handle it. She knew what was coming, and she was just numb. She ran to her bedroom. If you watch that family's interview with Chronicles of Olivia, you'll see how they get into more depth about who moved in when in that house. I believe they said Maddie moved in 1122 King like 2 years ago, while Kaylee moved in only recently this summer. But they go really in depth about the girls' friendship, about the home, and it's going to lend itself to my theory about the home as well as the occupants perhaps being a target, because Kaylee's sister is going to talk about that home just always being known as, I guess, the popular home. And so imagine these beautiful popular people in this popular home, a spot that Bryan Kohberger was really stalking. They talk about Dylan Mortensen. They talk about the other surviving roommates, Bethany, and they don't shy away from publishing their photo and just bringing up questions, not accusatorily, but just bringing up questions about why it took so long for 911 to be called. So that night, students received multiple updates from the university. Classes were canceled the next day, but people didn't feel safer. Martha returned to her sorority the next day. She said, along with dozens of young women, they were gathered. They pushed all their beds together. That reminds me of times in my college days, but they, of course, not this level of a tragedy. But the innocent college, sweet town, sweet little Moscow wasn't going to be the same anymore.
And
The
Lori
girls
Merkel.
cried and cried and cried in their beds together. And ultimately, a lot of the kids went home. It was going to become a famous town in the most unimaginable way. So classes were canceled Monday, November 14th. Cops were telling them initially there was rumors of the mayor saying, oh, I assume it's a crime of passion, and they'll get into why he thought that. Monday still brought
Now, how many times are we going to hear crime of passion, crime of passion, crime of passion? It just
Right?
seems like
I think it's easier. I think it's easier to swallow with that story. Is that, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's easier to swallow, like there's not some drug thing going on, or just some crazy person, or you know what I mean? It just feels like if they don't have the story either. Like when we were watching the video of her and she was talking about how I can't remember I can't remember her says that story either, but I think that just creates stories in your head with no story. You're just creating stories in your head. You're probably creating all the worst things that could possibly happen.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it actually shows, and Plunder talks about in this video about the 150 people in the house 2 nights before the murders.
Right.
And
it's so crazy. It sounds crazy, but it doesn't sound crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
Confusion. There was anxiety, anger. Christy said, you feel sick. People didn't know what happened. There was a lot of shock. People didn't know initially how these students lost their lives, and they were initially being told it was a targeted attack. So why was it targeted? There were so many questions galore, and this town was supposed to be so safe. It's one of the safest. It's a great college. They're going to get into Washington State University, and all of it just being a community there. Haley is a reporter from KHQ, a local NBC affiliate, and she grew up just in Moscow. She lived right off King Road. She was living that exact life years ago that these girls were living. She said, I lived the exact life that they were living, and so it hit so close to home. How could it happen? No one had a clue because it was the city's first homicide in 7 years. And maybe that's why they called it a singular homicide at first and not a quadruple homicide. Publicly, police were not saying what they found. They did not know who did it at that point. John Webb is a local NBC reporter who spoke to the Moscow mayor.
Now, see, what I would like to know is why they did the shelter in place, and then 40 minutes later, they lifted the shelter in place.
Yeah, no.
then
Yeah,
they went-
that also doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, and then they did the shelter in place again, and then they lifted it again. They lifted it because there was no threat to public safety, even though the killer hadn't been caught.
And drove across like 6 states or more.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was head. Yeah, the person was headed cross country. Even though I don't think he did.
Right. Or did it alone. There's too many possibilities.
The mayor answered him about why he thought it was a crime of passion because there was no burglary, there was no robbery, there was no hostage taken. So that's why he believed it was a crime of passion. And that's why the family hit back against that terminology. That's why police kind of did away with that. They have certain experts giving their opinion too. One guy on here, just like he thought, was it like a murder unaliving situation? Because the way cops were so comfortable in saying, basically, you guys don't have to worry about anything, in essence, as if it was just a crime contained in the house. Finally, town whispers started saying, look, these students were stabbed. A scene that was so troubling, Martha said she has a friend who knew an EMT, and the EMT wasn't even allowed to go in because it was so violent. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to hear more about just how gruesome it was. A violent crime. Even the coroner is going to call it gruesome. And Steve and Christy, they've been married 27 years, such a strong couple. And Christy sometimes will just, her mind will want to go to those dark, dark, dark places. And Steve will try and just pull her out. He said it's probably the hardest thing a married couple would have to go through, indeed.
Yeah.
But word got around, classes were canceled, people just started getting the heck out of Dodge because they weren't necessarily believing what the cops were saying. Those who lived along King Road either holed up or they went home and left. And the reporter Webb said he'd never been on that road and it'd been so quiet. Martha said some people uncontrollably cried, some people didn't talk at all, some people didn't even eat. So imagine just being so traumatized. They talk about Ethan growing up in Seattle, north of Seattle, and him being the firstborn of the Chapin triplets and how he grew up so tall and loving basketball. They, of course, talk about perking up when he walked in the room. And because of his family's background, of course, he would want to major in sports, tourism, recreation. They show photos of Zaina, and she's like this gymnast and an athlete. She majored in marketing. So I got to learn the totality of all these reports. I got to learn a lot. Some things about the victims that I didn't know. So they show the Mad Greek where some of the girls worked, but they also focused on Maddie and Kaylee being best friends since 6th grade, inseparable. They're going to even call it even more than that. Some of the friends will call it, they're more than best friends, definitely as close as sisters, because one girl will say, my friends aren't that close to me. So it's a really special friendship. And at the end, some of these programs do great tributes to the type of people they are. So it's a good balance on really focusing on the victims. They talk about Kaylee buying a Range Rover and just going one last time down there. She had already either graduated or was preparing to graduate. I've heard both.
Now, the way Plunder's putting it, Kaylee wasn't even living there.
Yeah.
She went down there one last time.
Yeah, she was just visiting. That's why I was saying that's what the only thing I could think of why she would be sleeping in the other room. Like if her bed was already gone. If there's no furniture in the other room, maybe there's not enough room for you and your friend and the dog in a twin bed or whatever's in there. So maybe you have a dog bed and you leave Murphy in the other room, which was weird. I think you leave both doors open. I don't know how people work, but I mean,
Yeah. So all this stuff about Kaylee's living in the house. Well, she just said Kaylee went down one last time. So, and even Steve G and Christy said that she had her bedroom upstairs in their house, and that weekend she took enough clothes for the weekend.
right. She doesn't live there anymore.
in these
She was moving to Texas. No.
Yeah, she was moving to Austin.
Yeah.
specials. Her mom said that was the last time I saw Kaylee. She was going to show off her Range Rover and go to the Pi Phi party. So it was Thanksgiving break. Fear was driving the decision for a lot of students to get out of town, and I don't blame them. That's when police finally told the public what they knew, not about finding a knife sheath, but at least they told them that an edged weapon was used. So now Moscow, Idaho, the little gym out there, had become famous and going worldwide, getting national attention. They're going to talk about a lot of the online sleuths and TikTokers, and some of these programs look down on sleuthers worse than others. So now they're showing all the different TikTokers, and it's funny how probably a lot of YouTubers were like, oh, don't let my photo pop up there, because of course mainstream media, some of it is well deserved, some of it isn't. Of course, like the woman who's getting sued for blaming that Rebecca professor for the crimes, of course it's well deserved. But I noticed mainstream media tends to dump all online sleuthers in this proverbial box of, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. But they also had the couple with hidden true crime on there, Lauren Mathias and her husband. Lauren Mathias, a former journalist in Idaho, and her husband, psychologist Dr. John Mathias. The YouTube channel Hidden True Crime, and they talk about his 25 years experience as a licensed and clinical psychologist. So it's really good to hear their input. This is the couple who helped track down, their team helped track down those old writings on Tapatalk from Bryan Kohberger. I just watched another live they did just now about some people thinking, well, what do those writings matter? But it ended up really mattering. And you can see a lot of mainstream media is pointing to those writings to try and get an insight into the killer, even though motive isn't necessary for prosecution. Of course, a lot of people, all of us out here, want to know why. And I think as we watch these and go over these, Dateline and 2020 more, we'll learn more about his motive. So they talk about the K-bar knife sheath, the fact that cops were looking for that, how it got leaked to the media because, of course, cops were going around doing their due diligence and asking store owners, do you sell this type of knife? And reporter John Webb did say that the coroner called the crimes gruesome. That was the exact word she used. And a lot of people, the more I watch these, this is my third time watching these, a lot of people will weigh in on why using a knife was so different. And that's what I think part of Kohberger, if Kohberger is indeed the guy who did this, why he used a knife, because they're going.
What?
Going to say popularly, usually you would hear
I was saying I don't think he is.
Of mass shootings. You would hear of a gun, 4 people killed with a gun, like that, an easy feat, unfortunately. With a knife, it's something special. But back then, cops were saying, we don't know where he's at this point. They didn't have all the information. They even said at this point, we don't know the identity and the location of the suspect, the location of the knife, or any clothing that was worn by the suspect. Now, that part, I think they were lying a little bit too, and of course, to protect Dylan, because if they had interviewed Dylan within the first 24 to 48 hours, I'm assuming, and she saw he was wearing dark clothing, they did have a somewhat, even if it's vague and a mask, they did have a description. But of course, they wanted to protect her, and that's the best reason to lie. Sins of omission. I look back and grabbed the assumptions from reporters claiming, how could the roommates surviving roommates not hear anything, and the police just kind of ran with it. So it shows me as reporters, we shouldn't make assumptions.
Hi, Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. I was wondering if there's any evidence that suggests the attacker visited the first floor where the two surviving roommates were.
That information will not be released at this time. It's part of our investigation, and as we stated earlier, there's many things that are involved in investigation that we will release and things we won't.
But the cops weren't going to correct people because they wanted to protect Dylan. They don't know if Bryan or whomever did these crimes they don't know if he was surprised by Ethan. Ethan was called the biggest threat in the house. That's what Lauren called him. She believes the perpetrator really wanted to go up to that third floor to see Kaylee and or Maddie. I believe that too. When the coroner hinted that some of the victims had defensive wounds, we're going to learn that Kaylee also had defensive wounds. So all of these episodes are kind of flowing together to me. So certain things we learned on 2020, certain things we learned on Dateline. People are kind of on the fence about whether there was a sexual motivation or not with this perpetrator. You know, we've heard about some people.
You know, we've heard about there was no SA involved in this crime, correct?
Right. Yes, correct.
Okay, now what if the perpetrator used the K-bar as a phallic symbol?
Well, I could see it being a symbol of power, and to some, that's a phallic symbol in and of itself. So, sure.
Yeah,
why not?
He could use the K-bar as a phallic symbol, but basically, no pun intended, to get his rocks off. That
Right.
using the K-bar, that's how he was sexually gratified. Yeah, that's how he was sexually gratified.
If he's a psychopath, sociopath, whatever he is, or they or whatever are, I would think that would be the exact same sort of thing, like where it would get his rocks off just for killing them. It wouldn't really have to be an erotic thing. It would just be like, this is what makes my brain happy. This is what I like, the serotonin, probably not melatonin. You know what I mean? Like that burst in your brain that's like, yes. I think that's probably exactly what it is.
Okay, I want to see in the chat, guys, the number one, if you believe that the person used the K-bar as a phallic symbol, or number two, if they used the K-bar sexual gratification.
What about three is both?
People believe the knife can be
Yes,
a phallic
it's three,
symbol
both.
used in the place of something else. So technically, it may not look like
Steffa.
SA, but it could be. If there are fantasies of
Steffa.
SA, is it because the perpetrator couldn't actually pull
Neither.
it off?
That's
with
four.
so many people
No.
in the house, did he just not have time?
Three was
Or did he
both.
use
Four was
his
neither.
knife as his proverbial weapon, phallic weapon? So I don't think people should brush off SA so quickly, because SA in and of itself is a
Right,
crime of
Maven?
power. It's not some
Correct,
thing
Maven.
of love but this perpetrator wants to show people that he had power. And I think the more I think about that, it's true.
Yeah.
He wanted to show people he was capable of inflicting a lot of pain. True. And I
Right,
also think,
yeah.
he wanted to get in there something unique. He knew this would stand out. 4 people felled by a knife, not a gun. I don't know why some people claim there was no trail of blood, but at least eventually cops will get that touch DNA off the knife sheath. So they show the vigils that happened. The one reporter from Moscow, she said she, can't believe how
Sippa.
the parents
Love
would
you, my
feel.
brother.
You're sending your baby off to college, and unfortunately, instead, they're gone. They don't graduate. They're gone. They dip into thousands of speculations as the police, of course, are going through the house with a fine-tooth comb and not saying much at all, which I keep, got to give them their kudos now. I guess it was the right decision. I just thank God, as Kohberger was free, and one girl is going to say, this dude, he was like right here in town. Wow. And she's like, the cops are saying there's no threat to the community. So that initial part, yeah, I can imagine people taking issue with. But other than that, they got their man. If he's guilty, they got their man. They start going over body cam footage of all the incidents of when police were called because of noise complaints. And what tripped me out the most here was what happened on Friday, November 11th, 2022, where even though police were not called to 1122 King Road, apparently there was a party that weekend right before the crime happened. 48 hours or so before the crime happened, there were about 150 people in or around that house. They say 150, as many as 150 people attended. And this time the police weren't called, but they verified, Dateline verified with witnesses that happened, which of course.
Okay, I would like to know from everyone in chat if there was if there was 150 people in the house on the 11th, where'd all the DNA go? Because there was beer pong set up, and people was paying $5 to get in to drink beer and to play games. How come they only found 3 unknown male DNAs out of 150 people? And they had, and all those cups were stacked up. Why didn't the cops take the cups for evidence? That's what I don't freaking understand. There was 150 people in that house 2 days before the murders, and the cops did. And the
I
cops
didn't see like garbage and trash and stuff when they tore that house down. So they definitely got everything out of it. Are we sure that when the FBI came back through, they didn't take everything?
Well, before the FBI came in, if you remember, there was a restoration crew in there.
Right. We saw some of those pictures, but like you think that those cups just sat there until the end clean came through right before they tore everything down?
Yeah, exactly, Heather. They only took 113 pieces of physical evidence. That was 20 some odd pieces of evidence per victim.
Yeah, that's strange. That doesn't make sense, huh?
No,
I mean,
but
you want to probably take the entire door off.
Yeah, well, the FBI did cut out sections on the walls that had blood on the walls. They did cut out sections. The FBI did cut out sections of the wall and took them out for evidence. But I don't think they actually took out those red Solo cups all stacked up. I think they left them in the house, and the cleaning crew, like the restoration crew, came through and cleared that and cleaned the entire house and took those cups and threw them away.
The craziest thing I've ever heard. You would think that that's so weird. Like, what, they only like took evidence from the rooms that the kids were in?
Yeah.
Did they look in the bathroom?
I don't know, but all this crap is very, very suspicious.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's very suspicious.
Oh, yeah.
150 people in the house. Supposedly no DNA left behind.
And, the bathrooms.
They found 3 unknown male DNAs, but supposedly that was all the DNA they found, with 150 people in the house 2 days before. What are these kids doing? Walking around with freaking rubber gloves on? Oh, I don't want to leave my fingerprints. Oh, I don't want to leave my DNA.
Right. Yeah, of course that's what they were doing. Why wouldn't they be doing that? Yeah. I mean, there's no sense made of any of this now. And when you say it like that, like, are they just looking for an acquittal? Like, we don't have enough evidence of anything?
Now here's the thing. I was watching the video earlier today, and
Hmm.
if there's no, just like Ann Taylor states, there is no connection from Bryan to the victims. If there's no connection, there's no motive. If there's no motive, what does that mean?
Exactly. That's what she wants. She wants them to come up with a motive. They want her to come up with an alibi.
Yeah,
Or
and if
whatever.
there's no motive, then there's no case.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's all like, what do they say? What is that saying? It's just like a building built on an empty foundation, or like a like a sand foundation.
House built on sand.
There you go. Thank you. I'm like, I know there's a saying there. Yes. Like it doesn't make any sense. I don't I did you happen to see the crime lies and videotapes video?
Not yet, but here's where I'm going with this.
Okay, go on.
All Ann Taylor has to do is put one shred of doubt in the minds of the jurors.
Oh
Just-
yeah.
Just one little
100%.
shred of doubt. That's all she has to do
Yeah.
is put one little shred of doubt in the minds of the jurors, and that could equal either a hung jury or an acquittal.
Right. Exactly. Is it all a big farce? What are they doing? I mean, it seems like from day one everything was just wrong, done incorrectly.
Yeah, and I was reading. There was three brand new court documents that dropped. I don't know, guys, if you've heard about this yet.
What are they?
One of the court documents, there is somebody wanting to know
Rachel.
there's somebody wanting to know exactly how much this trial is costing the state of Idaho. How much this court case is costing the state of Idaho.
Oh, $1 billion.
Ann Taylor gets paid $200 an hour.
Right. Right.
The assistant defense attorney, he gets paid $180 an hour. Mind you, this shit's been going on for 2 years.
Right.
$200 a day for 2 years. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. 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 It's insane. Is it a way for what's Santa's name? Like he gets more money. He's gonna make more money on his way out, so he can retire with a bigger chunk of change for not doing anything.
Yeah, that's what I just said, Heather. $200 an hour
Yeah.
for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's and Heather just said that's $1,600 a day.
Yes.
This case, guys, this case is costing the state of Idaho. Now I don't know why the person that was wanting to know this was someone from the media. I don't know why they're wanting to know exactly how much this case is costing the state of Idaho. Maybe they think the state of Idaho is wasting money on this case. That's why they were wanting to know exactly how much this case is costing the state on a daily basis. And of course, Bill Thompson had that shit sealed to where this reporter couldn't find out exactly how much the case is costing the state of Idaho. Naturally, I think I got a new name for Bill Thompson. Seal it, Bill.
What is it?
Seal it, Bill. Yeah, seal it, Bill.
I like it. Why not? I can
Any
remember that.
victims should be allowed to have their parties. That's no problem. But I'm thinking, wow, what a problem for trying to narrow down DNA. If you have 150 folks roaming
Right,
around through
Maven?
there, how
Exactly.
much easier it would have been for Bryan Kohberger to
And several
spy on them,
paralegals.
blend in with the crowd. They're going to talk about him probably doing some dry
I
runs,
agree,
just
Rothschild.
going up to the house
It
those
is
other
cute.
dozen times he was there, maybe trying a front door, maybe trying a side door because of so many people. So they talk about Martha. She actually hung out with
I
Zaina
agree, Rod.
at the Sigma Chi party, and she was happy. She didn't know it was her last time with Zaina. Zaina was in the true epitome of a good friend, in good spirits. People are going to talk about Zaina and
I like
Ethan
this
dancing
nickname,
and
Heather.
singing, just having a great time that
Marshall
last night.
and
Of course, they
Baby U
talk
Billy.
about the grub truck, and they talk about the corner club, and then they might call him food truck guy, but they have to do a little mystery in here about how people thought the behavior of hoodie guy, as we call him, might have been a little suspect. They talk about Maddie and Kaylee doing everything right. People in Moscow usually don't take Ubers, Martha said. And so they call someone that private rideshare fraternity guy. They, got a ride home more than a mile from the grub truck that night after the corner club, doing everything right. It was 1:56 a.m. So, Steve is going to say, they weren't out there on dates or they weren't out there doing anything wild and crazy. They were girls together. They stayed together. They walked in well-lit places, and everyone was home by 2 a.m., and all 6 residents most likely thought they were safely home. Dateline was pretty thorough, just like 2020. They even covered that 3 a.m. stop, the alcohol offense by the underage kids. They even covered that little scream, distant and far away, that people heard on the body cam footage. But now that we have better times and we know Bryan Kohberger's movie,
I'm going to have to. I'm
Mhm.
going to have to go back and watch that body cam footage. You heard a scream, a faint scream on the alcohol offense body cam.
On the boys in the park? Or in the
Yes,
field?
yes. When they were standing up there by the car,
Well,
she just
let's
said
listen to it.
you could hear a faint
Should we,
scream.
should we listen to it?
Yeah, let's get through part. Yeah, we can listen to it. Let's get through part of this first.
Okay.
But I do want to say, Don Daniels, who was booted from the Moscow PD, who is now working for Pullman, she got that search warrant for his office and his apartment not by using the IgG or the DNA test, because Don Daniels thinks that the DNA test is going to get deemed inadmissible. So she went ahead and got the search warrant for his office and his apartment without using the IgG test or the DNA test. Now, isn't that kind of weird? Because she
Yeah.
even states in the search warrant that the DNA test could get deemed inadmissible. So she's wanting to use a probable cause search warrant separate from the DNA test to search his office and his apartment.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Interesting.
Hmm.
So if she's going to search his apartment and his office using a search warrant that's not linked to the IgG, wouldn't that be illegal search and seizure?
I guess I don't know. I don't.
Can someone please in chat tell me that if you use a search warrant, a probable cause search warrant, separate from the DNA test, is that an illegal search and seizure?
I mean, they got the DNA legally, though, like out of the garbage, right?
Yeah,
Don't you mean? I mean, that's
uh,
legal. I could dig through your garbage if I wanted to. I mean, people
yeah.
don't do that, hopefully, but
You wouldn't
if you
like
do,
you wouldn't like what you find in my garbage.
yeah, I wouldn't. You wouldn't like me find my garbage either. Yeah, no, I mean, come on, Uh, that's just so
No,
strange to
like
that it's
like
okay,
Heather
but
just
it's okay. I think.
like Heather just said, it can be an issue, yes.
All right. See, there you go.
And
Then he
Maven
knows.
says it depends on
Thank
the points of the PCA that judge felt had weight.
you. Huh.
And times around and such. We know that 3:12 a.m. and 45 seconds was a little bit too early to hear the crime at 1122 King Road. Now that they've dug into all the video surveillance footage and they've, got Brian's phone number, so they were able to get a search warrant on his movements and track and see when he was literally around that house and when he turned his phone off. And when surveillance footage caught him, doing different three-point turns and circling or going near the house several times, they got valuable nuggets. But the food truck guy, as we know, as Hoodie Guy, we know he was ultimately ruled out.
Jack
So
Showalter.
that was a nothing burger. But of course, a lot of these shows
Mhm.
have to take you on the journey that many of us went. They really dig in on the amateur sleuths of social media. They show Reddit and they talk about nature abhorring a vacuum. So when there's an absence of information, and of course, the cops really held back in this instance. So that left it up to sleuths and others to try and fill that vacuum with stories. They talk about the methods of seasoned detectives and what they would use, time tested methods. But I think there's room for old school to learn from new school and vice versa. They're wondering, was it someone who knew the victim? And we still don't know if Bryan Kohberger knew any of the victims. Now, they show when people started targeting Kaylee's ex boyfriend, Jack Decor, they called him social media suspect number one. But Christy said Jack is a very soft spoken guy. He adored Kaylee. She called him a kid. She said he comes from a very nice family. He's the kind of kid that would come in the house, take off his shoes. And Steve said Jack would even take the garbage out. And that's what won him over. So he sounds like a really good guy. They dated 5 years, Jack and Kaylee. And somewhere in there, I believe it was during Chronicles of Olivia's reporting her interview, where they talked about them breaking up and Kaylee wanting to get back together with Jack, just wondering, will I ever find another Jack? And according to Christy, it was just a break. It was an amicable break, and they had been together so long. They think they just broke up to say, okay, if we end up back together, cool. So we know Murphy the dog was staying with Kaylee, and people were wondering, well, why didn't Murphy bark? Did Murphy know the killer? So they're going over all this entire path that online sleuths went down when none of us had ever heard the name Bryan Kohberger, and the fact that Kaylee and Maddie called Jack between 2:26 a.m. and 2:52 a.m. that night. With so much about Jack, 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 and he became a suspect, but police were quick, thankfully, to clear him and the surviving roommates. So they didn't leave that out there. And now I see why, because if it's not that they were honing in on Bryan Kohberger as early as November 29th, but there were certain things they had, like Dylan's eyewitness and starting to get towards Kohberger, where
Dylan's eyewitness. If it was
What?
if it's believed that Dylan was tripping off of shrooms or acid or whatever the heck she took that night, I don't think her statements would be very credible, and I think that's why she's gotten thrown under the bus several times in the PCA. Because who opens their door 3 times, hears shit, and then just goes and lays back down the first time. gets up, opens the door for a second time, thinks she hears Xana crying, but doesn't see anything. Closes the door, goes, lays back down, gets up a third time, sees somebody clad in black in a mask, either walking towards her or walking towards the sliding glass door, closing the door again, locking it, and then going back and laying down, going back to sleep.
Right.
I think in my opinion, her statement that night didn't mean nothing because in my opinion, I think she thought she was having a bad trip.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only thing that would actually be plausible to me. Did too many of one drug, and I've actually, until we started talking about it, I actually had like kind of forgotten about that idea because it's so infuriating and annoying. But at the same time, I think that is the only explanation. It could have been any kind of drug and too much of whatever, or
Yeah.
or anything. Like it could have. What if somebody gave her roofies? I don't think that's what happened, but you know what I'm saying?
She could have possibly been having a bad trip that night on whatever she was on.
Sure.
Because there's statements
A
that
really bad trip.
Yeah, there were statements that she had opened up the door the first time, yelled, "Shut the f up,"
Right.
because she claimed that she had heard Kaylee upstairs playing with Murphy, even though Kaylee wasn't in her room. She was in Maddie's room, and how could she hear Kaylee in her room when Dylan's room is directly below Maddie's?
Right?
And then she heard what she thought was Kaylee going, "There's someone here." Even though it could have been Xana from Xana's room, but Xana was supposedly awake and on TikTok at 4:12. Just because you're on TikTok does not mean that's proof of life, because TikTok can actually open itself up on your phone.
I see why they could
It's
easily rule
TikTok.
out some of these people, but we didn't know why they were doing it because they were saying, "Oh, we don't have anyone. We have no one." But the guy caught on video, the hoodie guy, reporter John Webb, does say, well, he does look a little suspect in terms of his behavior. He did admit, okay, this guy might look a little suspect in terms of his behavior. Just by the way, hoodie guy turned his cap around when it appeared he saw the camera. But that doesn't mean, of course, that he was being implicated in any crimes or anything. But they're talking again about the criminal using a knife. That's something that's really stood out. And I believe Bryan Kohberger knew that would make him stand out. And also just trying to be this new 21st century Ted Bundy with Kohberger using, in essence, it's a sorority house of sorts that he attacked, the big white popular house where the cool, popular, beautiful kids live. He's staking it out, represents everything he wasn't as we're learning more and more about Bryan's own awkwardness. Martha had a great point in this interview where she talked about the TikTok sleuths, and she, of course, groups everyone in one big bucket, which I don't agree with, but she did say how hard it was because some people were just, out and out accusing Hoodie Guy, out and out accusing the surviving roommates or whomever. And just how hurtful that was, of course, going through all the digital footprints, going through the Venmo transactions.
Hey, Ash.
There's nothing wrong with finding things. I love all of us sleuthing, finding things, but then when you draw a conclusion, oh, this person must have done it. And Martha says just how hurtful that was because in real life, Martha would be there just sobbing, grieving with these people. And then all of a sudden, you see on TikTok or you see on someplace blaming them for the crimes. And they go over the frustration of the Gonzalez family, just how frustrated they were with police, just nothing, just having no clues. And I don't know, maybe that was the right thing to do. I don't know. I'm not a cop, but Steve said Steve was feeling the frustration of not knowing anything. But cops were honing in on the white Subaru. But Steve got to the point where he said, look,
Wait a
he
minute.
was
He
just
just said
almost
white
broken.
Subaru. The cops were honing in on the white Subaru. Did she not just say that?
Yeah. What? What white Subaru?
She just said the cops were honing in on the white Subaru.
Right. Why? That's one of the cars we've never heard. We've never heard anything about a Subaru. There's probably a ton of Subarus up there, though.
And no, I've never heard a white Subaru mentioned.
Yeah. It's
I've heard
all
the
white car illusions.
Yeah, I've heard the white Elantra. I've heard the white car. This is the first time I've heard the white Subaru.
We still never saw a black SUV
SUV.
with sweet rims or whatever.
Yeah, that is a possibility, Ron.
tricked out rims.
And he was saying, help me not hurt myself or the investigation. Tell me something. And they just wouldn't. So they tried to go on as normal in that town, and they show the parade, the holiday parade. And I was thinking of that. Wow, in December, imagine the people who didn't have the opportunity. Maybe they didn't have the means or the resources or the family or whatever to run home to a place of safety. Imagine the people who just live there and couldn't go home. That was home. And just imagine how frightened people were. Some people talk about locking their bedroom doors now, locking their doors, locking their windows, stuff they never even thought about. And the one reporter is saying, what if it's someone right next to me at Safeway? Is it someone here pumping gas right next to me? And she did admit people were feeling angry. They were confused, but most of all, they were very fearful because there wasn't much coming from authorities to make people think, yeah, we got this. And how Steve and Christy even decided to delay the homegoing celebration for Kaylee because he didn't want the perpetrator to be there standing in the crowd, lapping it up, loving everyone's misery. And Steve, they show his older clips in his interviews when he's saying, look, I don't feel like it's okay. Maybe I'm being a fool. He laid it on the line to the cops. He said, hey, I'm a man of honor. I'm not going to lie. Help me. Steve literally said, help me from hurting myself. And he said, they just left me. They just left me with nothing. I don't know if they could have told Steve more and promised him, okay, keep quiet on this, or just given him a little something. I know he was going to the press a lot, but I think he did that out of frustration. He's going to talk about him and Christy really feared this case would grow cold. Other people will talk about it too. They knew so little that they thought, I don't know if this guy will ever be called. And I wonder if cops felt the same way. There's a former FBI agent, Gregory Rogers, who chimed in as well. So they got a lot of input, not only from people who knew the victim.
Chaos Sector said white Subaru. I was just reading the chat and I saw that Micah said Chaos Sector said white Subaru. So I go, okay.
Familiar with the court system. He said, look, that's the deal. Cops have to ignore the critics. They just want to do their job. They just want to solve the case. So no matter what was going on and on out here, all the criticism of the cops, they were working it. They put out that appeal for the Hyundai Elantra initially 2011 to 2013. And they show the PIO with the Moscow Police Department, Robbie Johnson, where she gave more.
They have changed the year of the car how many times?
Well, and clearly they've changed the make of the car at least 4 or 5 times. Still never saw a video of the girls getting dropped off and the guys driving away before them going inside. You'd think that would be on camera somewhere.
Well, it might be on that It might be on that light bulb camera from
Well,
1112 King
it's,
Road.
it's definitely going to be on there.
Yeah, we're not going to see that anytime soon.
Forever, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting point, Rob. Interesting point. She said, yet Brian's card can't change. Interesting. Very valid point, Rock Chalk.
Info saying, look, this Hyundai Elantra was in the area of the crimes around the critical time. So we don't know. They didn't spook Brian too much. I mean, ultimately, he did leave town pretty much a few days after this, but they said this person, we don't know. This driver or whomever might have some info. And finally, Christy was saying, oh my goodness, how long have they had this information? Where did they find this Elantra? Was it on camera? They were frustrated. Cops wouldn't answer these questions for them. But, I can't imagine, as a parent, just saying, okay, if this person has pertinent information to the case, who is this person? So that gave some hope. Whether it was a witness, she didn't know. But the police knew, of course, and they were digging and digging. And thankfully, they knew more about that white Elantra, something that would surprise everyone. So they also talked to a student named Austin Morrison, a 10-mile drive away from Moscow in Pullman. He's a student apparently at Washington State University. And so they kind of show the closeness of the communities, even though it's like divided by a state line, they are so close, it doesn't feel like two different states. And they show the gas station where there was security footage from November 13th, a white car driving by quickly at 3:45 a.m. Thankfully, that store worker was able to sift through video and find, and just how instrumental that helped police narrow down their timeline. Now they go over the car found in Eugene.
Yeah, sift through the video in my butt. She said she was bored and she just decided to start going through the video camera. And then she just happened to so conveniently take a picture of the time and then what looks like a white blur going by with blurry freaking headlights. You saw that pic, right, Sophie?
Yeah.
Doesn't it look really blurry?
Well, yeah, it's slowed way down, I think, for starters. I don't know how many frames per second or whatever it's set at.
I mean, even the headlights look blurry.
It just looks off, but I mean, I don't know what a normal car looks like. I'd like to see what a car looks like, the same car, same time of night, and that setting, like darkness, whatever, and have it pull in and pull away and see what it normally looks like on that camera.
Oh yeah.
Eugene, Oregon. There's lots of white Elantras out there, obviously. It was December 17th when someone called 911. And again, they're showing TikTokers going ham over that abandoned white Elantra and how there's so.
And I'd like to know why no one's talking about that wrecked Elantra in Pullman. Or no, actually in Oregon.
Yeah, it's in Eugene, I think.
Yeah, the one that was just wrecked and the license plate removed.
That's just funny.
Yeah, that's kind of suspicious. You're gonna wreck an Elantra in Oregon, and then you're just gonna conveniently remove the license plates.
It's a really long drive, from Eugene to Moscow. Probably like 12 hours or something.
And not if they're speeding like a bat out of hell.
We can't drive that fast in Oregon. The speeding tickets are 100 miles or $100 per mile over the limit. Wow. Yeah, it's incredible.
So many Elantras. Some people will talk about I did keep my eye out for white cars, but it's so popular. There's like 22,000 of them that could have fit the bill, perhaps even more once they expanded the years of the model. So, but again, that Eugene, Oregon Elantra had nothing to do with the crimes. And I found it odd how police had to come out and say, please stop contacting the female owner, because that is one bad thing about web sleuths. I do know that some people will literally, I don't know if they do it purposely. Some people do. They'll jump and they'll just jump and make up so many lies. I mean, there was so much drama over that Eugene, Oregon white Elantra. People tried to connect it with the 1122 King Road owner or his son or someone. But Nick Gibson is a senior at Washington State University. And he talked about, and in this portion, they talk about how police put out a bolo for that white Elantra 2 weeks before they asked for the public's help. Now, that's something I know cops do. Sometimes they'll put out a bolo just among other cops. But hey, if they would have put it out earlier, that clerk at that gas station maybe would have found it earlier. So, although
So there's a free website that will help you come up with YouTube video ideas guaranteed to get views. It's
the public can be really bothersome and harmful in certain respects by wasting cops' time, there are also members of the public who really won't take it too far and they really will help. Nick Gibson told Dateline, WSU has a parking services department. And so that's how they were able to, this one university employee was able to get the registration, the license plate, the model that are already in the system. He or she went through, a campus cop went through and found a white Elantra. And so that's how they got Bryan Kohberger's name on the radar. But it wasn't like some big, that's the guy moment. It was, okay, here's another person to put on the list. Because back then they saw he was a criminology student and part-time teaching assistant living in the Steptoe apartments, popular among grad students, and his white Elantra was in the parking lot, but it was a 2015. So that was one of those things that was like, okay, I guess we'll keep it on the list, but it's not exactly what they're looking for. Ultimately, of course, they expanded it to 2015s. Thankfully, that, Wazoo cop did due diligence and searched for the Elantra. There was a lot of info coming about the car, but this is where I do think, sleuths gain a bad name when they're trying to come up with topics and don't think maybe they have the skills to do it the right way. There's nothing wrong with exploring all options, but there is something wrong with, manufacturing evidence or making a leap. I see people do it often where they might make a leap between two things that you just can't make that leap. Or you should see some of the stuff being said about Dylan right now. And it's just, I feel a real burden to just pray for her. People questioning.
What'd you say?
I said I probably do that. Like, these things are connected. Go on. You can play the video. Sorry.
Yeah.
Her gender and all these things that don't matter. Like this young woman,
Here, Miss
I
Kelly.
just saw a video about allegedly she was the shy one of the group and quiet, and that would lend itself as to why she maybe did freeze in a frozen shock
the quiet
phase.
one.
So on Monday, December 12th, it was the start of final exams at Washington.
She was not the quiet one.
Aren't we supposed to be worried about the quiet ones?
Yeah, I mean, we're all supposed to be worried about the quiet ones because they're the most suspicious and they're the most tricky.
Yeah, what are they thinking about in there?
Washington State University. So that's right across the border, right there. And Nick Gibson is talking about the stress that was on students. There's a pressure cooker. They're grinding. It's finals week. Some of them are mourning. They're in fear. Imagine going through all of that at once. So they were really ready for Thanksgiving break. But, Bryan Kohberger was there too. He had his dad come on out there, and they have some exact dates in this one or 2020. They call it 2,800 miles away. I thought it was more like 2,500 miles away. But Nick even said he was keeping an eye out, like, is that a white car? Is that a white car? So people were looking. But Bryan and his dad left Washington State University, and in that car that,
drove
of
through
course, was
Kansas.
2 years older
Right.
than they thought was the high end of what they were looking for. So yeah, somebody had it wrong, but I still think they did an excellent job even trying to pin down what they were looking for. Bryan left December 13th out of Washington, and December 15th, we see that stop in Indiana. But we see they get picked up on Loma, Colorado's traffic cams as well. So people don't know. Someone called it a circuitous route. So I'm not sure if that was a less direct route, but they took I-70 across, and we know they got stopped twice in Indiana. We don't know
Love you, Rock Chalk.
if it really was
Have a good night.
a fluke, a strange coincidence, if cops really had their eye on
Have a
him.
good night, Rock Chalk.
Call
It's
Bryan
nice
a
to
bad
see you.
driver for how often he was stopped. Part of me wonders too, with that visual snow syndrome, if he's still experiencing that. I'm sure that might lend itself to some pretty bad driving. Was he really tailgating a truck and all that in Indiana? Were cops keeping an eye on him and stopping him for no reason? I mean, I've been stopped in Indiana. Thank God the trooper let me go with a warning. So his final destination, Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, 90 miles north of Philadelphia. Bryan just settled in, they said, for the holidays, and people have found too the rest of his mom's alleged writings we saw on Reddit, which gave us the date of Bryan moving out there, June 26th, I believe. And they found the rest of her postings saying, oh, I can't wait for my son to be home. He'll be home a whole month or whatever. And people are like, wow, this poor woman, if she only knew. Once Bryan came home, this PhD student, and settled in, by then he was on a list small enough because they were using genealogy forensics, genealogy DNA, to narrow down.
I don't think you're actually allowed to do that.
Do what?
Use genealogy.
Why couldn't you?
Because that's not the norm for testing DNA. You don't test DNA with 23andMe or anything else.
But you can. I mean, you sign something when you give your DNA to them that you're like, okay, sure. I think. I'm pretty sure. I have a 23andMe, and I'm pretty sure it made me sign something that was like, are you okay with this? And I was like, sure, whatever. I like catch them if they're bad. I didn't do anything wrong. That's what I thought.
Who could have been Bryan's relatives, and they have his cell phone records, and of course that gave them the treasure trove of information of tracking his movements and seeing his phone off, rarely off, but off on November 13th from 2:47 to 2:48 a.m. So that's when the window, police believe, of the murders happened. A lot of things were pointing to Bryan. Then Bryan's phone pinged near 1122 King Road just a few hours later, around 9:12 or so, as if he were visiting the scene of the crime. Odd movements for someone if he were.
Do you realize how many cell towers are in Moscow? There's 3. It
Right.
just because he pinged in the area doesn't mean he was near the house.
Right.
He could have been anywhere in Moscow.
Right.
And his cell phone pinging off of one of those towers in Moscow.
Right. Agreed.
And the FBI have already apparently has debunked 6 of those pings.
What's that mean? What's debunked? How do they debunk the pings?
Because
like that didn't really happen?
they went back and they looked, and he had pinged in the area of Moscow, but he wasn't anywhere near the home. He was in he was actually in the city of Moscow, but yeah, his cell phone was pinging off the towers in Moscow.
Huh.
And just like an FBI expert said, just because your cell phone pings in Moscow doesn't mean you're near the home.
Right.
It just
Correct.
it just means you're in Moscow. And
Right.
six of those pings, he was in Moscow, more than likely eating a vegan meal at Mad Greek.
Right. I would be surprised if all the restaurants didn't have something on their menu that was vegan.
Mad Greek was the only restaurant there in Moscow that actually had a vegan menu.
Right, but their whole menu is vegan, I think. I just mean, like, I'm sure you can pick up some French fries or like a salad or some shit at some other restaurants.
And what I would like to know is, being vegan, making his mom throw away and buy new pans because he wouldn't eat out of a pan
Pretty strict.
that meat had touched. How is he going to stab 4 people to death in the middle of the night if he won't touch meat?
Right. As a pretty strict vegan, you'd think that would be not something he would ever do. Or blood or anything.
Yeah. Thank you, Miss Kelly. Pinging at same tower that provides services to King Road does not mean he was at King. Thank you, Miss Kelly. You just backed up what I said. Thank you, Miss Kelly.
Were unrelated to these crimes. Cops got security cam videos from the city of Pullman, where WSU is, so they were able to see Bryan's white Elantra leaving and re-entering Pullman right around the hours that they were checking for. All these things are just too coincidental. If it were just a regular student or a regular person, why would he be hanging around 1122 King Road so much, re-entering the city at 5:26 a.m., re-entering near his apartment at that time? Why? They're going to talk about being so close to the house that he's connecting to their Wi-Fi. If he weren't just one of their friends who is normally coming over to visit. No, this guy was a stalker. He's a hanger-on, and forensic genealogy is what really helped cops figure out, okay, well, Michael Kohberger is the perpetrator's dad. And so they had Bryan's movements, cross-country movements, with his cell phone and his car in the neighborhood at the same time. So this is why the case is really solid. And when cops were watching Kohberger's home in Pennsylvania, December 27th, they're pulling trash, they're getting that DNA, and they're connecting it to his dad, Michael Kohberger. And it's really high probability that the person who committed the crime, his dad, is Michael Kohberger. So that's how they were able to hone in more so on Bryan Kohberger. So it's so much. December 30th, that's why 50 agents were able to get to that house in Pennsylvania. And Kohberger's house, you know, it was a serious entry because they're like, look, we're dealing with a guy who may have taken out 4 people with a knife that's
50 agents.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, there's something else going on. There's something bigger going on.
That's insane.
There's something else going on.
A no-knock warrant for 50 agents.
And you saw that house, they like, I don't know, did they like come down from the roof and like jump in through the windows? The windows were like destroyed.
Yeah.
They destroyed in the house. They could have probably knocked on the door.
Yeah, they destroyed that freaking house. I kind of feel, I kind of feel sorry for Bryan's parents having to deal with 50 fucking agents, FBI agents.
Having to deal with any of this is going to be difficult. But
Your house.
And I just think that they had made a point earlier that they weren't like they're not wealthy people, so it's not like it's going to be easy to fix just their home, which is sad.
Yeah, if I was Michael Kohberger, I would be telling the FBI, "Hey, you did this to my house. You're going to fix it."
Right? I don't think it works that way. Maybe if his son gets acquitted. If his son gets acquitted, I bet he can sue them.
I hope he sues them.
He should be able to sue them. It's very horrible. I mean, I don't know who gets to make that decision. Like who at what level goes like we're gonna knock on the door. No, this guy murdered all these people. We let him drive across the country. No big deal. We thought it'd be okay. We let him drive across the whole country. And then we waited till he got to his parents' house. We didn't arrest him that whole drive. We didn't try to get him any time during that whole time when he'd be like in the middle of no place at the gas station. We waited to bust in on his parents' house.
Yeah, I honestly think those 2 stops in Indiana were controlled stops because
Yeah. It's hard to believe they're not. It's hard to believe that they are not. You know, it would be hard. I mean, it's much easier to believe that they are. Much easier to see that.
Yeah, if the FBI wasn't tracking him, then how would they know that his license plate hit a license plate reader in Colorado?
Right? I mean, I'm sure that information could be got after the fact. Like, do I think they were tracking him? Yeah, probably. Did they pull him over on purpose? Sure. But did they know exactly which way he was going? I don't know. His cell phone. I mean, you know, his dad's cell phone and his cell phone could be tracked really through that whole area. So they could have just gone in later and been like, we need traffic cams of this road that goes through town when people go this way for these dates. And they can probably just get all those traffic cams from all the different cities.
Yeah,
like CCTV or whatever.
Thank you, Mark and Betty.
Hi, Mark and Betty.
There's something far bigger going off in this case. BK somehow fits a narrative to try to clear it all up.
Or hide it. Or that's what you mean anyways. Really.
Yeah. Hey, Rondi.
Because it feels...
Rondi says the 2 stops seem sus for sure.
Yeah. It feels set up. It feels like a setup.
Yeah.
It feels like they lifted the shelter in place way too soon. Like unbelievably too soon. We don't even know who did this yet, but you'll be fine. Go about your business. No big deal. No big deal. Just go do what you're doing. Or like, yeah, it just feels like it's incomprehensible at every step.
Yeah. Even though they hadn't found the killer yet. Oh, there's no harm
Yeah.
to the area. We'll go ahead and lift the shelter in place.
Let your children go back to college. Let them walk around the streets and live by themselves and drink and walk home. Things like that. So, it's small town. We've got this.
Thank you, Bianca. Bianca says, Mrs. Kelly, and just denial after denial. It looks it looks from way down under and worldwide so shady.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Bianca.
Yeah. So shady. And like, that is so true too. So shady from every point of view. It doesn't make any sense to anybody, any place. I can't help but think that that's just a big, we're going to drag this out as long as we can. And we're going to finish this other thing we're doing in Moscow.
Yeah.
We're going to, and then we're going to let it go. And then we're going to be like, everything's swept under the rug all quietly. Like people will get over it, people won't talk about it anymore. If we take long enough, they'll forget it's happening, and we'll have arrested all of people we need to arrest for this
Yeah.
other thing that's happening.
Yeah. Bianca says we all see it. Yes, we do,
Yeah.
Bianca. We all see it.
Yeah, it's impossible not to see something as fishy. It's the fishiest thing I've ever seen. Actually,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. Like stuff that gets put out. Let's say some of the other things that happen in society. Like stuff gets put out a lot quicker anymore. Oh, it was this person and whatever, but then they're like, this case is going to take. In fact, the guy who murdered the people up in New Meadows
Yeah.
a couple years ago, his trial took more than a year to go to trial. And he, I think, might have fled out or gotten a plea bargain. I think he might have got a plea bargain or some kind to not get the death penalty.
Yeah.
But it took a while for him to get to court anyways. So maybe it's just Idaho.
Fallon says public is not in danger. We're not going to tell you why we can say that. You'll just have to take your word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief Fry.
Yeah. Never take his word for anything again. I don't even know. Let's say he gets this other whatever sheriff position, whatever he thinks he wants to get the other job.
Brian is screwed if that happens.
Oh yeah, and why? How can anybody trust this guy? He seems sketchy as hell.
Yeah, because he won't just be some little local podunk police chief.
Right.
He'll run the entire Latah County.
Right. And he'll have all the money situations in his hand.
Yeah, I would like to know, did the university just tear that house down so they could build something else there?
Yeah.
Like Scott Green said that he wants to build low income housing.
Which I'd love to know what that means. Like actual legit low income housing, like below, $1,000 a person or something.
Well, he said it was either low income housing or affordable housing for University of Idaho college students.
Right.
Now, wasn't that what the 3-story fucking house was?
Yeah, but nobody would have they should have kept it up for evidence, but nobody was ever going to live there again.
Well, we don't. Now that's a valid point, but here's my rebuttal. We don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure.
I don't know if insurance would insure that home anymore. Is that would your homeowner's insurance insure that if there's some sort of homeowner's insurance due someplace,
Yeah.
Or they can continue to maintain I don't know, things like that. I think that home, no matter what they went back and did, was never gonna be. I mean, the only thing it could be is a monument inside the home to the kids, and that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I'd like to know why, if they weren't going to move anybody in, and they were just going to tear it down, why bring in a restoration crew to clean the house?
Right.
If they were just going to tear it down.
I lived next to a house they tore down one time, and they just tore it down with all the shit inside. They just tore it down with a big cloth thing and just dumped it into the dumpster. They didn't clean it.
Yeah. This house was cleaned not once, but twice.
Right? Right?
It was cleaned twice. If they were,
probably still dirty inside. They look like slobs. College kids.
Yeah, and just the whole Dan Estes thing. He literally went there and told his other tenants not to talk to the media and not to talk to the cops. He told his other tenants, don't bring my name up with the cops.
Weird. That sounds sketchy.
Yeah. Was Dan Estes before he sold that entire block to Eagle Investment Group, which is owned by somebody in San Diego,
San
California.
Diego.
Yeah, who owns another investment group called Cottonwood. Basically, what this guy, the guy who owns Cottonwood and owns Eagle Investment, he basically transferred. He basically sold the house to himself, or that the house is around there to himself. He transferred property from Eagle Investments to Cottonwood, so he basically sold the houses to himself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some sort of tax evasion or something.
Tax evasion, money laundering.
Yeah.
See, just like Dan Estes said at one point that the 1122 King Road was actually, and the name of his entire LLC was 1122 King Road LLC. He owned that house, and he owned that house, and he owned all the houses surrounding it. And he
Right.
made the comment that, because someone asked him why he's owned so many houses on the same block. This is the way he put it. Well, he goes, if you want to launder money into property, it'll come back clean to you as rent.
Who did he say that to? Is that allegedly? What do you mean?
No,
He
I've
just said
actually,
that?
I can't remember where I saw the interview at, but I've seen the
So
interview.
allegedly he said that, but you saw it. You're saying you saw it. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah, because it was like maybe like what, a couple weeks after the murders, and he was talking. He was being interviewed by somebody. I just can't remember who now, because it's been a while. And he made the comment, if you want to launder money into a property and not get caught, just have it come back clean to you as rent money.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, this is true. Property tax here is so expensive on rentals. I guess it's worth it.
Yeah, because did you notice, like, right after the murders, he quickly got rid of that house. He donated it to the
Yeah, and then write that,
university.
and then he gets to write it off as a donation.
As a donation to the university. And who I guess they were going through mitigation over it and stuff like that. And once it became completely theirs, well, she said the Board of Regents, which I guess it's the university, which is the Board of Regents, which controls the university, which just how happens Mr. Scott Green is on the Board of Regents.
Right, Randy? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look how small that town is every time we're like, he's probably also a cashier at one of the grocery stores. He might work at the hospital. It's just such a small town. Like everybody is like we were saying before, everybody's 3 degrees of separation from each other instead of 6.
Yeah. And yeah, freaking, I call him Crackhead Santa, Crackhead Santa Bill. Yeah, he thinks that he can get a clean jury in Moscow. That's why he's fighting so hard not to have a change of venue. because he thinks he can get a clean jury.
I know.
Now, just like Steve G has said, Thompson's ideal juror is a farmer.
I know.
Who has,
It's dumb. It's dumb. That whole thing is stupid. It's just stupid.
who,
Like
who,
it doesn't make any sense.
who has no cable television and who works in the field all day and doesn't know what's going on in the outside world, which you and I both know is BS, because a lot of farmers do have cable TV. They do have some type of electronic, whether it be cell phone, laptop, computer, tablet. I just think that Thompson's basically looking for some dumb farmer who's going to go along with everything that he says.
It's just dumb. It's like it's unrealistic. It's an old man thought process. That's something that an old person would think that was like totally out of touch.
Hey, AR is in the chat, guys.
Hey, I watched his dogs get a puppy box earlier. It's pretty cute.
There's your link, AR. I got like 20 minutes left in the live. If you want to come up for 20 minutes, that'd be cool. But yeah, just my uncle, Lord rest his soul. Yeah, he was a farmer, and he had the electronics. He had
of course.
No, see, he didn't just have cable TV.
It's just another thing to say. Like he just wants words. I feel like he just says words to fill up time. Like they're putting everything off. All they're doing is trying to fill up time. They're making up stuff. They're not filling people in on stuff. They're not making anything available. They're just like killing time for some crazy reason.
Yeah, and my uncle, I think he had dish TV and not direct TV or cable TV, and he used to watch the current events all the time. And he passed away a couple months ago, but yeah, he was watching the Idaho 4 case because he loved true crime, and he was very invested in that case. And he thought that Bryan didn't do it.
Yeah.
AR buddy, click the link. Come on up for a few minutes. But yeah, he believes Bryan didn't do it because he thinks that possibly it was a rush to judgment. He thought everything was happening too quick. He thought it was too quick. He thought everyone was getting cleared too quickly.
Well, doesn't everybody? And I'm like, well, talk about people who are, well educated to people who are not educated at all kind of think this is wrong. Like it doesn't make any sense to anybody, even the people who are lawyers and actual like scholars and know what they're talking about in law are probably confused. None of it looks right.
Hey AR, that link's for you.
Maybe it looks like looks right on it. Oh, hello.
But yeah, this whole I call this case my new word for this case is paradigm shift.
I like it.
Yes, Mark and Betty, this case needs a change of venue.
Yeah, I saw somebody someplace earlier say something about Coeur d'Alene, and I guess they could move it to Coeur d'Alene. It might be, closer. I don't know if they have a big enough courthouse.
I heard possible Boise.
I would just assume Boise. We have a huge courthouse. It's only like maybe 10, 15 years old at the most. It's very nice compared to what we're seeing in Moscow.
Yeah, but just like freaking Steve G said, it looks like a prop set.
Yeah.
Like you got this tiny little courtroom, and
Did-
Steve G said it looks like you're walking into the set of a TV show or the set of a movie.
Did you see that show I was talking about earlier? That was can't remember if it's crime. Yeah, it's Crime Lies and Videotapes. That guy, he had a thing earlier talking about how he put out like 3 videos in a row yesterday or today or something, and he basically like kind of
There's your link, AR. Come on up. But yeah, this whole freaking case, and I'm sure AR can agree with me in chat. It's like something out of the Twilight Zone. Honestly, it's like something out of the freaking Twilight Zone. That's the way I see it. You're now entered the Twilight Zone. Don't you feel like that sometimes, Sophie, with this case? It's like you're entering the Twilight Zone. Sophie.
Brutal. They know exactly how brutal it is. We don't even know the details yet. Just the stuff rumors I've heard are unimaginable. So they performed a dynamic entry by breaking windows and breaking doors and doing what they had to do to get into that Pennsylvania house and get those cuffs on Kohberger. So he was taken into custody without incident. And we still don't know why that sheath was left behind. Kaylee's parents are going to theorize like maybe the girls had something to do with grabbing it, one last act of getting the bad guy. And I really hope they did. So they also show Brian Sheehan, who is a general assignment reporter at NBC 10 in Philadelphia. And that's when he got a hot tip that, oh boy, there's going to be an arrest. So they told him, get over to the Poconos. And he's like, what? Wait, the Idaho
Here's your new
killer
link,
is in
Sophie.
Pennsylvania? So a lot of people didn't expect that. That was something some people thought. In a way, they were correct. A lot of people thought, oh, this guy's a local guy. Maybe he's someone hanging out in Moscow. Christy, early on, she thought, oh, it's not someone
That's
just
what I
passing
said,
through
Fallon.
Moscow. And she was correct. She was correct. It really was someone who lived in the area and had gotten familiar and knew the girls, at
Yeah,
least
you're here.
on a stalkerish level, was someone who got out of town as soon as he knew cops were looking for his white
Okay, cool,
Elantra.
Mike. I mean,
Didn't he
AR.
know that he would be seen on
How do you
camera? They
think about
also
what's going
show
on in this
Casey
case, AR?
Arntz. So we
Let me
know
know in
she's the
chat.
girl on TikTok who we've examined some of her videos where she talked about going to school with Brian, and she was
Are we
just
done with the plugged video yet? I mean, are we going to finish watching it? Is it 20 minutes long? Like,
I'm going to be wrapping it up here in about 10 minutes. So,
oh, okay. Because I was like, I think her videos can be really long sometimes. Go on.
unless you want to watch the Banfield stuff.
Brian was 1 year.
Yeah, I do. I want to listen to it. Let's do that. We're good listeners. We got a listening group in here. Everybody's got their ears out.
2 o'clock is a dark hour. I'd like to know what Stacy Chapin meant by 2 o'clock is a dark hour.
I don't like it. I don't like not knowing because it
You.
could be anything. It could be some like family thing. It could be whatever. It could be the last text message they got or the last time something. It could be whatever their thing is. They could know something that they're not telling us. I mean, it's just an odd thing to say. Definitely an odd thing to say.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'd love to know. I'd love to just have answers from them for things like I don't know how they sent the other kids back to that school, but I don't know them as people. Maybe that's part of their family strength or something, like a tribute.
Yeah, it just doesn't add up in this damn case.
Nothing adds up. And if there's a scream in that video and that cop didn't even like reference or like look to the side or whatever, that's pretty weird, right?
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
You'd think that a cop would be attuned to something like that, like, oh, danger. I should go check that out. Because I'm going to assume if there's a scream, it's blood curdling. I don't think somebody just, I don't know. Maybe they randomly scream all the time around there. The video of the audio or the audio of Lynn Elaine people is
creators like
pretty
you.
jumbly loud.
This is
A lot of
something you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. It's very different. It's a very different. 2 a.m. is a dark hour. I can tell you that. We're all.
What did you say at the end? 2 a.m. is a dark hour. What?
They did officially update the timeline to reflect Kaylee and Maddie getting home at 1:56 a.m. I've been pushing that from the very beginning.
I will say the one lingering for
It's a very different. It's a very different.
It's very different. It's
2
very.
a.m. is a dark hour. I can tell you that. We're all.
That's such a good noise. You guys taking off on me?
I didn't hear you. Yeah, we thought you were talking.
You all three turned around and I pointed my flashlight at you. You said, hey, come here. You guys all turned around and walked away.
I thought it was just like a fake person. Yeah, like
How many fake people are out here that you've experienced?
Someone trying to flex us.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, how's your night going?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Just trying to stay warm.
Is that y'all's car right there?
Yeah.
You're supposed to hear
Undercover.
screaming.
Well, just trying to save gas. They downgraded us from patrol cars.
Gotcha.
They gave us hybrids to save on fuel.
There you go.
You guys over at which department did y'all come from?
I don't know. I was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember which
Is there
bar.
a person hosting the party?
Some guy named Matt, I think.
Okay. $59.77. Are you gonna be issuing? Copy. I'll bring him over and write out one myself. All right, guys, come on over here. All right, if you guys all want to stand.
Yeah, I want to, because they said the scream it happened what time? 3:14. I want to see if that's actually true or if it's just made up.
Somewhere in this area. Don't run off on me. None of you guys are 21. It's one thing to drink in an apartment where no one can see you. It's another thing for us to drive by and see you guys absolutely stumbling down the roadway. Okay, so likely what's going to happen because you're all underage. What grade are you guys in? What year are you?
Freshman.
You guys are all freshmen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Police blotters and call logs are public record. Anybody can see them, and rightly so, because taxpayers pay for that work product. And now some eagle-eyed followers of the Idaho quadruple murder case have picked up on one particular item from the police on the night that the 4 college kids were murdered. In fact, the incident in question happened at almost exactly the same time as the killings. I'm going to read to you what the police blotter actually says. Quote, there was an alcohol offense reported at 3:01 a.m. on November 13th, and that's the last night the kids were alive. The location, a field on Taylor Avenue. You can see it there.
Sorry, guys. I know it's cold. Like I said, it's one thing to drink inside, I'm sure. I mean, we've all been to college. We've all been there. But it's another thing to be very publicly intoxicated and kind of bring this conversation on you. So that being said, not the end of the world. So just an infraction, not a criminal charge, nothing like that. So
what?
I said they don't look that intoxicated.
No, they don't.
I mean, they look like they've probably been drinking, but nobody's like,
yeah. Just wait till you're 21 or be smart about it.
Yes.
It's not going to say I didn't drink in college. I did, but I can go staggering around the middle of the roadway, after.
Oh. What? Just how he just said that. He's like, not that I didn't drink also when I was under 21, the cop.
Yeah.
So were those kids in the middle of the road or were they in the band field? Did they get called because they were drunk at the band field?
They were walking towards the band field. And they stopped in the band field and then walked him back over to the car.
Okay. Because he just said they were bobbing around on the road.
Yeah. Oh, we've been on for 2 hours and 31 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down.
Okay. Bye, guys.
I'm tired and still not feeling good. My stomach's been in knots all day. I've got Crohn's disease, so when it flares up, it flares up.
I hear you. Yes, my cousin has Crohn's. I can understand completely.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing the live.
Yeah, I saw that.
But my premiere got blocked.
Well, so I was on my phone and I had the TV on, right? So normally when I'm on your show or watching your show, I have the TV on and then I chat on my phone. And so I had them on both and I got like an error message. And it was like Paramount Global. Yeah, they are being shut down for copyright from Paramount Global.
Yeah, because I was showing some clips from 48 Hours, and apparently that's Paramount.
Oh. Yeah, because I thought we were watching 2020, but I also like 48 Hours. I don't get it. I mean, how did they shut you down so fast? You weren't even on. You're on 11 minutes.
Yeah, I was on 11 minutes on my premiere, and then I noticed I went from 9 viewers down to 3.
Yeah, so it was like me and Bianca and Adam, I think, or somebody else.
So I went into my analytics and checked my analytics, and just this I went on analytics on my phone and checked, and it said content blocked, copyright infringement, Paramount. I'm like, and first thing I thought was great. I wasn't wanting to go live tonight. I was just wanting to do the premiere, but now I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll just do the 2-hour live. And
yeah, we watched Plunger, and her shows are long, so that was good. You filled the time. You should get some rest. When do you want to do this again?
Tomorrow through Thursday, I'm just going to be dropping regular content.
Okay.
And I thought about going live again. Yeah, I thought about going live again Friday because I wanted to do more content in between the actual lives. And I was, I
like that idea.
I was just planning on dropping a premiere tonight until it was blocked because of copyright infringement from Paramount. So I'm like, just to hell with that. I'll just do a 2-hour live, which went over to 2 hours and 34 minutes.
Oh, we got pretty close. Pretty close.
Rock Shock, it was blocked for copyright infringement of Paramount. Paramount because I was using clips of 48 hours in my friggin' Premiere.
Night, Adam. Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. It just like kicked me out. What was weird was that it kicked me out of my phone, but on the TV you were still going. So like it kicked me out of my phone almost instantly. Like I don't even know if I saw your content. I was just like, what's happening right now? And then I went, and then you kept, and then you were still talking. You were still on my TV, so like it was still going through YouTube, whatever. But whatever YouTube app is through Android just set off.
Yeah, I was getting no views because
Yeah.
of the because Paramount blocked it for copyright.
You're getting a couple views.
Yeah, I'm happy that we peaked tonight at 54 views. Even though we only had 28 likes, we still had almost 60 people watching.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was looking at one of your other videos. I was trying to find the sweet spot when we talked about the other day, like what's the time that people really want to watch it all? And it does definitely differ, but that episode we did a couple days ago, for the amount of time it's been out, had some of the most views.
Yeah.
So, and that was like, what was that, 2.5 hours?
Yeah, that was 2.5 hours.
So maybe this is the perfect amount of time for you. Maybe this is your thing. Maybe this is the sweet spot.
Well,
you don't need to overdo yourself.
Oh, you're talking about like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night?
Well, right now it's 12:30 here. So what is it, like?
It's 1:30.
It's 1:30. Okay. I keep forgetting you're only an hour. Yeah, like, so maybe much earlier, maybe at like 5 your time.
What time?
5 or 6. 6
in the evening.
Is that bad? That's probably really bad. I work weird hours. Sorry. I'm like, I work strange hours. I don't know what to say. I never know what's right for people. What's right for you? When's the best time for you?
Probably around this time, 10 or 11.
10, 11 your time.
Yeah.
Like we did tonight.
Yeah.
It's fine with me. You know, it's kind of cool because I like to be able to see like when the other creators that you are buddies with or people that we know have like very good content anyways. I'd like to be able to see their lives also. So it's nice to get everybody spaced out. And I don't think anybody else does it that late.
Yeah.
Live.
Hey,
That always does.
Rock Chuck, I don't know if you saw it tonight, but WSU Kim was in the chat and she was chatting with us. And she said once her husband is healed, because she's nursing him, she would come up on panel.
Was that really her?
Yeah, that was really her.
I really wanted her to come up on panel. I wanted to hear her voice.
Yeah. Dinner time horrible. What do you mean, Rock? Dinner time horrible.
Oh, that time, whatever time I was suggesting, I think. when I said 6 or whatever, I said, yeah, sorry. I know, I forget. Other people, normal people. Different schedules, I got you.
Oh, I was told, Rock, to tell you from my daughter.
Oh yeah, you fell off the roof, Bianca. Go ahead, sorry, Robert.
My daughter said to tell you, Rock Chalk, tell my fairy godmother I said goodnight.
Aw. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, she calls Rock her fairy godmother.
That's adorable. Yeah, oh, that's what she said. She said her husband fell off the gutter didn't hold him up or something is what she said.
Yeah, when
Or
she
the-
said gutters didn't hold him up, I instantly thought of Clark Griswold.
Yeah, I kind of hope that's what she was saying because I thought like people don't try to stand on the gutter, right? No, nobody thinks they can and put weight on the gutter, do they? I don't know about your gutters. My gutters definitely are not going to hold a person.
No, I ain't got. Yeah, yeah. I'm about 285 pounds of. I'm about 285 pounds of. If I hold on to a gutter, I'm gonna go. What the fuck? Ah.
Yeah, right. And he like only kind of hurt, or he only hurt one thing too. Whatever she said, he hurt his hand or something. Like, geez. I mean, that's like the luckiest thing I've ever heard. It'd probably break both hips falling off the roof.
Yeah, well, like for my daughter's birthday, I grilled out. Yeah, I did. My uncle, my uncle Terry. He likes better cheddars, which is
Sure.
like hot dogs with cheese in them. So I
Oh
cooked
yeah,
an entire pack.
it sounds delicious. Go on.
So I cooked an entire pack of better cheddars for him. I grilled out an entire slab of ribs. But of course, I soaked it overnight in maple and brown sugar. I made 3 boxes of hamburgers, 2 packages of hot dogs, and by the time everyone was done, there was 1 rib left.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe you had any ribs left at that point, really. Did you eat it for breakfast?
No, my neighbor, really nice dude. He has diabetes. We were all standing out front, and all the kids were in the bouncy house. And he stops at the end of the driveway in his van, and he calls me over, and he goes, Robert, he goes, what smells so good?
Yeah, exactly. I bet it smelled awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So you gave it to your neighbor? That was really nice of you.
Yeah. So I told him what I was cooking. I said, well, I'm cook better cheddars, hot dogs, hamburgers, green chili bratwurst, and a slab of ribs. And he just looks at me. He goes, damn it. He goes, you're making me hungry. He goes, you're gonna save me some, right? I'm
Aw.
like, yeah, Travis. If I have any left over, I'll save you some. He goes, awesome. I had one rib left over, and I took it over to him.
Aw, that was so nice. That was nice of you to do. Ribs sound fantastic. I love it when neighbors cook good things outside. I have some neighbors that have a smokehouse in their house because they own a restaurant that serves a bunch of smoked meats. So they have the windows open on that part of the house. I don't know how. It's not really. I mean, it's connected to the house. I don't know how they do this, and their entire house doesn't smell like smoke. Also, the whole neighborhood smells like meat. It smells amazing.
Oh, I bet it does.
Yeah.
My brother Corey was, I was over at his house Sunday night. Yeah, I was over at his house Sunday night. Yeah, because my daughter stayed the night with him. Yeah, because they'd promised her a couple weeks ago she could stay the night. I think I was telling you about that, Rock. They had an emergency. I was telling you about that, Sophie.
Yep.
Yeah, her brother's wife was murdered. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so they had to go to Colorado straight away. Well, they were down there a week, and they came back. And my daughter asked them when they were at the birthday party. She said, Uncle Corey, can I stay the night tonight? And he goes, yeah. He goes, it's your birthday, so you can stay the night. So she apparently she was rambunctious with 5 boys that evening, and she was on a trampoline. And
No, this story always ends with something broken or a scar. Go on.
No, their littlest one, Caden, who's 4,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know how to play with girls, and he pushed her off the trampoline, and she landed on the ground on her butt.
Okay.
So
That's a good spot.
yeah, it was a good spot for her, but she was whining all the way home. Daddy, Daddy. I'm like, what? She goes, my butt hurts.
She was butthurt. I mean, yeah, that's sad. But
And I'm
so
like, well, what
trampoline.
happened? I'm like, well, what happened? She goes, Caden pushed me off the trampoline.
Oh, Caden's gonna have to learn how to play with girls.
Yeah, all he has is 4 older brothers to play with.
Yeah, well, and then he's got his cousin.
But no, my oldest nephew, he's the same age as my daughter now. As my daughter, he walks up to me. He goes, Uncle Robert, and I'm like, yeah. He goes, he said, if me and Caitlin weren't related, I'd date her when she got older.
Oh no, yeah, no, sorry, he's
like,
taken
yeah,
already
I'm like,
by
yeah,
anybody else.
I'm like, yeah, no. And he goes, but she's cute. She's blonde and blue eyed. I'm like, no.
And no, still. Oh, kids. They bounced house their heads out.
Yeah, about to. Yeah, Rocky or what? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this now. 8 screaming kids at a birthday party. I about pulled my what hair I have left out of my head by the time they left.
Oh yeah, Traeger rock, Traeger. My buddy has a camping Traeger, like the mini camping Traeger thing. It's pretty cool. You have hair left though, Robert. You have hair left to do this
Yeah.
again on Friday at like 1 or something.
Well, no, 11 my time, 10 or 11 my time.
Midnight my time.
Yeah, so I'll probably be, I was teasing my wife earlier. She likes it when I grow my hair out because normally I keep my head bald, and I actually have hair on my head. And I told her earlier, I'm like, honey, and I'm like, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow morning I was bald? And she goes, you better not cut that hair. I'm like, but I want to cut my hair. She goes, no. She goes, happy wife, happy life. And I'm like, well, what about a mad wife? She goes, mad wife, you're on the couch.
I like it. At least it's the couch and not a doghouse, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She said, and honey, she said, you better be lucky we don't own we don't own a big doghouse because you'd be out there. I'm like, yeah, no. I'm like, I'll keep my hair for now. Hey, Rock, I like all of us just hanging out and talking.
It's easier to read chat when we're like paying attention to chat. Basketball.
So how many of you guys in chat enjoyed the live tonight? Give me a sign. Give me a number 1 if you enjoyed chat tonight.
That's the only option. Just number 1.
Bianca, yes.
We love you, Bianca.
1. They're all Bianca.
Other people, Mark and Betty and Randy. Oh, Rondi, I mean, sorry. Oh, I think I need glasses, actually. Getting blurry.
If I had only a few hairs, I would do bald lucky tick. As head full, it's gray and pretty.
I like gray hair. It is pretty.
Well, let's all go hang out in Discord, guys.
Oh, that's a good point. Cool. My fur babies are my fur baby is amazing. Are we going to Discord? All right.
Yeah, let's go to Discord, guys. Peace out.